Let's move on now to our third speaker, which is Julie Zrna. Welcome, Julie. Now, Julie has had breast cancer, and Julie also on the weekend, when I was looking around all of the how we're doing in different types of cancer, as well as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, breast cancer is the other one where we've had really striking improvements in outcomes, and unquestionably that's related to clinical trials, to information obtained from clinical trials, and not just drug treatments. We've heard from Kwang and James about drug treatments, but in fact the improvements in breast cancer survival are due to a whole range of different types of trials, which we might touch on at the end. But Julie, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be here. My journey, I actually don't like the term journey because it's a trip of a lifetime, really, that I didn't want to take. But that is my journey, and I'm here. I was first diagnosed with breast cancer in 2007. I went through surgery. I went through chemo. I went through radiation. I went through hormone treatment. And you know what? I thought, that's it. That's it. You know, I'm doing well. I'm okay. But it came back, and I think that's probably one of the hard things that we have to deal with, is looking and thinking, well, it's come back, so now what do I do about it? I live in Mildura, so I'm one of the rural patients that Hung was talking about, and in Mildura, we are so lucky that we have a group of fly-in, fly-out specialists who visit us on a regular basis, but we also have our own oncologist who is resident and lives there. So I was originally under the care of an oncologist in Melbourne, and then I went to the care of the local oncologist when my cancer returned. And he was wonderful, and he put me on best standard practice with a drug called letrozole, which is the drug of the current treatment. And like all the good people, I went home and Googled to find out what it was about and what would it do and what would happen. And as I was Googling all the things that came up, there was a press release about a new drug that was given in addition to the letrozole. And, but it was not available in Australia. It was quite commonly used in Europe, in the UK and in the US, but had not reached Australia yet. And there were some people in Australia who were able to access this drug, but it was overseas at around about $10,000 a month. I went to my oncologist and showed him the press release and said, is this something that we need to think about and that we could talk about? And he said, absolutely, we can. We can think about how you can gain access to that extra drug and what we can do about it. I think he rang every hospital in Australia to see if it was available and if there was a clinical trial available that would allow me to access the drug. He finally found the most marvellous people at Sunshine Hospital, Western Health, which I call Sunshine Hospital, because that's where I go, and they were absolutely fantastic. And they said, yes, we are recruiting. So it meant that I had access to a drug that was prohibitive in terms of expense, normally in Australia. Since I started, or since the press release that came out, the drug company Pfizer has put in to the PBS to have it listed on PBS, and they weren't successful in their first submission, but they did say that it was available for self-funding in Australia, so people could fund themselves. That took the price down, I think, to $5,000 a month. And since then, in the last budget, a different but very similar drug is going to be listed on the PBS, but the one that I'm on isn't on the PBS as yet. So being part of the clinical trial allowed me to access that drug, which I would not have been able to access otherwise. So I felt that I was very privileged to do that. I'm actually not quite sure. My understanding is that I'm on a phase 4 of a trial. So I don't know where. I think it's this side of Hung's slide, really. Yes, it works, and yes, it is successful, and yes, it does give you a better quality of life, but we want more data. We want to learn more about it, is my understanding that goes through. I knew that I had an absolute marvellous team in Mildura who were looking after me and who were caring for me, and I could not say enough for what they have done. They're just at the end of the phone. Whenever I call them, they're there, they're available, and they explain things, they go through things. But I knew as part of a clinical trial, I would have access to another group, a whole other team of people, and that would give me additional care. And I knew that for me was really, really important. Also, like everybody else who's part of a clinical trial, I hope that what I go through and what people learn from the trial and from my little bit of data that goes in will help other people down the track. I know with breast cancer, there are incredible things are happening, and I would like to hope that they continue to happen so that I can come back and visit you down the track. I did find out about the clinical trial by reading the press release. Since then, and the drug I'm on is palbociclib, it has received a lot of publicity since then, so that there's very much a push to have it listed and to have it worked through. So it is a drug now that is quite recognised, but still not accessible unless you're on a clinical trial. So that was the important part for me, and that was when I discussed it all with my oncologist who worked through. After contacting Sunshine Hospital, the oncologist then discovered that the hospital was recruiting patients, and so we had to go through, as Hung said, there was a process to go through to see if I was eligible to be part of the trial, if what I had would be okay, if I could be part of the type of cancer I had, the stage of cancer, the previous treatment that I'd had, and any other medical issues that I might have had, which may have made me ineligible to participate. So we went through all of those processes to just establish my eligibility and to make sure that I was okay to go ahead. I was accepted on the trial, and I did receive the 20-page consent form to be signed, which I was very grateful for because it explained a lot of the things in there that the process that we would be going through, what the expectations would be, what might happen in terms of my expectations, what would happen in terms of the expectations from the hospital and from the clinical trial people. What might be my side effects, the possible side effects that might be there, and other sorts of issues that we're going through. So having gone through all that, I dutifully signed at the bottom line, thinking I'm just so glad that I have access to something that is cutting-edge treatment. And that really was my aim at that time, was to be part of what was going on there. I then had tests and scans to provide a baseline for where my cancer was, so that during the trial period, the results could be checked against that and they could see progression or non-progression or what might be happening. What did I get out of being part of the clinical trial? I think that the ability to receive a drug that is giving me a quality of life that I don't know whether I would have had without it or not. I don't know. But it allows me to go back to work. I work part-time, so I've gone back to work part-time. It allowed me to complete my research for my thesis and write up my thesis. It allowed me to graduate with my PhD. So it gave me the opportunity to take my life forward, which I'm very grateful that I have had that opportunity. It allowed me to establish a relationship with the most incredible new medical team. The people at Sunshine Hospital have been fantastic, and I now have a relationship with them that I feel I can call them at any time, I can contact them at any time, and they're there for me and they're working with me in that very positive way. But also, it's the opportunity to learn about clinical trials and to learn about what is happening in terms of new research and the things that are going on, because through participating in the clinical trial, I have information that helps me think about where I might be going and what are the other sorts of trials that might be happening, that might be down the track. There are issues, and I faced a few issues. As a rural patient, and I live in Mildura, so there's no further place from Victoria or from Melbourne than Mildura. So right up in Mildura, it is quite difficult. I need to put aside extra time. I have to come down to Sunshine Hospital once a month for what in my family is called my drug run. So I come down once a month and access the drugs. So I need to put aside time to do that, to travel from Mildura. It's 550 kilometres each way. I have to fly. I can't drive each time. And so I have to fly down, and it takes a day to go down and go to the hospital and have the checkups and things and go back again. It is hard in that when I first started on the palbociclib, getting my blood counts right and getting the schedule right and the dosage right was quite difficult and took quite a lot of time, which meant that I was all set with my airfare and my air ticket that then had to be changed. So that emotionally, as well as financially, was a bit difficult. It is difficult for rural people to be part of clinical trials. There is no patient assistance travel if you're on a clinical trial. There is for normal treatment, that's terrible, isn't it? It is for best standard treatment. If you are required to come down to Melbourne for treatment, then you have patient travel assistance. But being on a clinical trial, there is no travel assistance. And so I'm very lucky. My husband, who's sitting over there, supports me to the hilt, and we pay for me to come down once a month, fly down once a month, so that I can be part of that clinical trial. My oncologist did say that he was more than happy to be part of all that, but because of the clinical trial and the protocols that are associated with the clinical trial, he could not do that. So it had to be done through the Sunshine Hospital. Finally, can I just say, participating in a clinical trial has been a fantastic experience for me. The support I have received and continue to receive, both from the team in Mildura and the team at Sunshine Hospital, has been fantastic. It just is amazing. It's allowed me to think about my cancer, which I know is incurable and I know is terminal, but I can move forward with my life in a way that is very positive, and I meet people and they have no idea that I'm dealing with that. So that gives me a privacy that allows me to move forward and allows me to work through. And that's a very important part of the care and the quality of life as you work through. So I can lead my life to the fullest. I don't consider myself to be sick. I don't feel sick. I hope I don't. I don't think I look sick. But I have to deal with the fact that, yes, I have cancer and we're working through it. And my GP says to me, well, Julie, what's the worst thing? It's come back. What do? We treat it and we buy you more time. And I think that is a very, very wonderful way of thinking about it. I feel that we are so fortunate in Australia, or particularly in Melbourne, to have the research that we have here. I think that the scientists, the medical, everybody involved in the research that is happening just is amazing. They are such a dedicated and committed group of people who are doing absolutely everything, punching way above their weight, to make sure that the best treatment is available for we the patients. And I just can't thank you all enough. For those of you in the audience who are part of that, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. For those of you in the audience who are considering going on a clinical trial, do it, is what I say. Just do it, because it has been, for me personally, a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie, for sharing your personal experience there. Very, very moving. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I wasn't aware until just now that we need to give you congratulations, Dr. Julie Zrna, for getting your PhD. So I love that. The managing to get a PhD after beginning on a clinical trial is absolutely fantastic. So congratulations.